Welcome to Rantasaurus Shots Fired Edition. Now, there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on with people on Twitter, with pixel counters, and just crazy shit going on. I've been arguing back and forth on Twitter. At some point, I realized that while I do enjoy debating on Twitter, it's pointless to debate on Twitter because you really can't get your point across. It's better to put these things in a video, get your point across, and then let people deal with it. So that's why I try really hard not to debate too much on Twitter, because you really can't do too much on Twitter. You get 140 characters to say what? You know, most of the time people ignore what you're saying and then say what they're going to say. They don't answer your questions, you know. So it's nuts. This is why I do Rantasaurus. And the reason why it's taken me so long to do this one is because there's a lot of stuff that's been building up, a lot of debates that's been going on, and I just want to settle all this stuff on video because I'm tired of people spreading misinformation about things, such as what is a next generation game? What is a next generation console? People have said, well, the Wii U is not a next generation console. They've said things like, well, Titanfall's not a next generation game. And the reasons they give are just fucking ridiculous. Let's start off with defining what generation is. Because you can't sit there and say, well, you can't treat the word generation or the phrase next generation like it's a painting. You can't be like, well, how do you interpret next generation? You know, it's not a piece of art where you can interpret it, or a book, or a poem, or a film. You don't interpret what next generation means. Okay? It has a definition. So, first, what is generation? What is a generation? The definition of a generation: a single stage in the development of a type of product. Also, the production of something. Some of the synonyms: creation, production, initiation, origination, inception, inspiration. This is what generation means. This is the definition of generation. You don't interpret it any other way. The definition is there for you. Okay? So what is next generation? Well, let's look at the console generations. Right now, we are in the 8th generation of consoles. There's always this question, is the Wii U a next generation console? And a lot of people say it's not, for really stupid reasons. And they're all wrong. The Wii U is a next generation console. So right now we're in the 8th generation of consoles. The 8th generation since consoles were born. And in this 8th generation of consoles, we have the 4th generation PlayStation, the 3rd generation Xbox, and the 6th generation Nintendo console, which is the Wii U. That tells me that the Wii U is a next generation console. And the thing is, there's another thing that's confusing with a lot of people is, once the generation is here, it's no longer next generation. It's current generation. People in PR, people in marketing will say, oh, here's the next generation shooter, or the next generation racing game, or the next generation in horror. You know, that's all marketing bullshit. And all that marketing bullshit has got to you guys, so now you're using it in your dialogue, and you're just confusing everybody, and you're all wrong. The Wii U is the next generation console. Prior to the Wii U coming out, that was the next generation that was coming out. The next generation. It is now out. It is now the current generation, but it is the next generation console because it's the next generation Nintendo console. It's their next thing. Okay? Then there's this other debate going on with graphics. Well, in order for a game to be next generation, it has to have certain graphics, which doesn't make any fucking sense, because you got a game like Minecraft, and you got a game like Peggle 2, and then you got Battlefield 4, and then you got Call of Duty. They're all different types of games with all different types of art, all different types of technologies, because in order to have a first-person shooter, well, you got to make it look like you're shooting a gun. And you got to have realistic environments. Okay, things like that. You got to have grass and sun rays and explosions, you know. In a racing game, you want the car to go 60 frames per second so you get that feeling of speed, etc., etc., etc. Okay? There are certain things that you want. But like a puzzle game doesn't need all that. Puzzle games usually have blocks or circles or fruits or little kitty corns or crazy looking things, because they're puzzle games. It's a puzzle. Puzzle is usually two-dimensional, usually requires shifting or removal of pieces. It's a puzzle game. There are certain aspects in a puzzle game. So you can't say that a puzzle game isn't next generation because it doesn't have 3D buildings and grass and explosions and 60 frames per second racing. Okay, you need to stop taking this label of next generation and trying to fit it in different type of games. It's fucking stupid. Okay, so do a game's graphics make it next generation? That's my next question. Well, the PS4 has a third generation Infamous game and a fourth generation Killzone game. The Xbox One has a fifth generation Forza game and a third generation Dead Rising game. The Wii U has an 8th generation Mario Kart game, a 2nd generation Bayonetta game, and a 4th generation Super Smash Bros. Game. Are all those games next generation games? Yes, because they're the next generation in that series. Regardless of their graphics, whether or not they use DX12 or Mantle, or have any 3D special effects, they're all next generation games. So graphics do not make a game next generation. This is something that people continue to get wrong, and it's fucking ridiculous. I'm tired of this shit. It's like people just take the ball and they run with it. They don't care. They don't even know where they're fucking running. You know, it's just fucking ridiculous. So then you got people making statements on Twitter. And this is the Shots Fired edition, so I'm gonna call a few people out. I'm not being mean. I'm just pulling some tweets out of my Twitter feed. My man Tony Polanco. Okay. Tony Polanco, love him. Okay. One of the things he said, next gen equals seeing/experiencing things impossible in previous gens. There's your definition, drops mic. Well, Tony, I'm sorry to say, but you are 100% incorrect. You know why? Because the PlayStation 4, this is an example for you, Tony. PlayStation 4 is a next generation console. I'm sure me and you can both agree on that, right? But it can't play MP3s. It can't play MP3s. Yet the PlayStation 3 can play MP3s, and that's a last generation console. Now you said next gen equals seeing, experiencing things impossible in previous gens. Well, MP3 playback was possible last gen on the PlayStation, and right now it is not possible on the PlayStation 4. For whatever reason. Drops mic. So you're wrong there. But what Tony's really trying to tell us is, if there's gameplay elements that you've never seen before in previous generations, or there's special effects or graphics that you've never seen, that must mean it's a next generation game. Well, because with each generation of console hardware, the hardware gets faster, it gets better, there's more RAM, more CPU speed, it enables the developers to do more things. Yes, you're going to see, better visuals in certain games. Peggle looks like Peggle. Peggle looks like Peggle with more characters, slightly different gameplay. You know, new ideas. A lot of times when they make a next generation game or the next iteration of a game, it's just all about new ideas that they didn't think of when they made the first game. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 had some new ideas that they didn't do with Call of Duty 4. But that was still last gen. It was still on a 360 and PlayStation 3. You know, sometimes it's just new ideas. Sometimes they had ideas that they couldn't implement and they need this new hardware. Which brings us back to next generation hardware. It's like, oh, now we got the hardware we need. Maybe we can do that thing that we tried to do last gen that we couldn't do. For instance, Battlefield couldn't have 64 players on PlayStation and Xbox. Now it can due to next generation hardware. That's because the hardware is better than it was last time. It's faster than it was last time. Okay? But that doesn't always necessarily mean that the graphics are going to be better, that there's going to be more special effects. It doesn't always mean that. There have been several games that have been ported from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, such as Flower. You can't get any better than Flower was last gen, but they ported it over. It's the same game. Now it's running on PlayStation 4. DC Universe, you know? Maybe you got some better anti-aliasing, things like that. But, I mean, come on. We can't just look at a game and look at how pretty it is and say, that's next gen, that's not next gen, that's trying to be next gen, but it's not. That's next gen. We can't do that based on how the game looks. That's just wrong. That's not what it means. Another quote, Hip Hop Gamer. He said, Titanfall beta is classic, but next gen means new standards. This was built ground up for the Xbox One. You don't think we deserve more? What do you mean we deserve more? What are you talking about? What are these new standards? We're still using the same standards we used last gen. We're still releasing day one DLC. We're still selling fucking season passes. We're still patching the game after the fucking release because they're not ready for release. There aren't any new standards yet. There are no new standards. This gen has already started off like last gen, with the exception of the titles themselves. We got new games, but there's no standards. Next gen doesn't mean standards. It does not mean standards at all. That's not what it means. Second hip hop gamer tweet. They were talking about true next gen. So now people are saying true next gen. What? This is a true next gen game. This is the first true. Infamous is the first true next gen game. Well, if there is such thing as a true next gen game, then what's a false next gen game? Please answer that. What the fuck is a false next gen game? Here's what Hip Hop Gamer said. There is false next gen games. They're called ports of old gen games on next gen hardware. So Flower on PS4 is a false next gen game. According to what he said, PlanetSide 2 will be a false next gen game. DC Universe is a false next gen game. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, according to his logic, is a false next gen game. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, hip hop. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, really? Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know what you're talking about? I love you, man, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Are you fucking serious? I mean, come on. Let's take a look at Battlefield 4. Here's another example. Battlefield 4 is on all consoles and PC. So Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. This is a new game. It is the next generation of Battlefield 4, built on the next generation of Frostbite, yet it runs on this gen's consoles and last gen's consoles. It is still a next generation game. It is the next generation of Battlefield. Peggle 2 is exclusive to the Xbox One at the moment. It's a game on next gen console. And it's not on any other console. It's not on any tablets or PC. Right now, it's exclusive to Xbox One. But it's also the next iteration of Peggle. In other words, the next generation of Peggle. It's Peggle 2. So Peggle 2 is a next generation game. So if you're going to sit here and say, oh, it doesn't have that next gen polish, so it's not a next gen game, well, you're fucking wrong. It's the next generation of Peggle. What the fuck is wrong with you people? What the fuck is wrong with you people? You know, and then Hip Hop Gamer releases this video. So Hip Hop set the whole fucking internet on fire. He released this video, and he was talking about, it was a shots fired video, and he's talking about the tech and video games, and I've told him time after time that you cannot talk PC gaming because you don't know PC gaming. You just don't know. You have a PC, you check your email on it, you do your podcasts, your videos, or whatever, but you sure as fuck don't play games on PC, and you sure as fuck don't give a shit about PC gaming. Because if you did give a shit, and I'm only saying this about Hip Hop Gamer, because you guys, whenever there's some stupid pixel counting argument going on with fucking Xbox One and PS4, and people want to sit there and talk about, hey, you hear it every day. The PlayStation 4 is more powerful than Xbox One, and it's $100 cheaper. It's more powerful than Xbox. You keep hearing this shit. And the game looks like this because it's more powerful than Xbox One. That's why the Xbox One has shitty hardware. Whatever. And then somebody comes in, that elephant in the room speaks up and said, well, the PlayStation 4 isn't as powerful as the PC. And then they're like, oh, we don't care about PCs. We're only talking consoles. We don't want to hear about your PC. And PC's too expensive and this and that. Hip Hop Gamer in his video says he likes PC. As long as it has a game, he likes it. But then he's going to fucking blow off Star Citizen. So Hip Hop Gamer always asks this question. Name one PC exclusive game that looks better than this. Name one PC exclusive game that looks better than that. He keeps doing this. It's like, just because I think a game looks better than a fucking PlayStation game doesn't mean you have to agree with me. We all have different tastes. I happen to think that as far as next-gen console games, Rise is the best-looking game out of all of them. I still believe that Battlefield 4 is the best-looking first-person shooter out there. Best-looking multiplayer first-person shooter. That's my personal taste. That's my personal opinion. If you want to get technical and get into technical debate about it, we can get into a technical debate about it. And I can tell you why every single PC game destroys your console games. Technically, I can do it. But I'm not going to do it because it's go on deaf ears. You don't know what the fuck I'm saying. You don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I have asked Hip Hop Gamer, when Hip Hop Gamer said Titanfall is not a next-gen game, or it doesn't have the next-gen polish. I'm like, well, what do you need? What kind of polish does it need? Does it need volumetric fog and lighting, ambient occlusion? Does it need tessellation, bump mapping? What is it? What is it missing? He never fucking answered me. So Hip Hop, I know you're going to watch this video because you made this shots fired video, and you already got 2 people that responded to you on video. This is probably going to be the 3rd or 4th. Answer this question. What will make Titanfall look like a next-gen game to you? What kind of polish does it need? Does it need tessellation, ambient occlusion, bump mapping? What the fuck does it need? Do you know what all that shit is? Anyway, so he's always asking, name a PC game that looks as good as fucking The Order. Nobody's played the fucking Order yet. Nobody's played it. Nobody's played it. It ain't out. Nobody's played it. Okay? Name one PC game that looks as good as this and that. Okay. I'm going to name 10 PC exclusives that you've never fucking heard of before because you don't know shit about PCs. Ready? Archblade, Days or DayZ, Arma 3, Star Citizen, Guild Wars 2, Hard Reset, Hawken, Loadout, MechWarrior Online, Path of Exile. I could go on further, but why bother? You don't give a shit. You ain't going to listen. You ain't ever going to play these games. You said you love to game. And out of all the people, everybody thinks that every time I get on Twitter and I'm arguing with console gamers and I bring up PC, that I'm trying to get them to spend money and buy a PC and start gaming on PC. No, I'm not trying to do that. I know not everybody out there can afford a fucking gaming PC, nor do they want to. They don't want to deal with Windows and installing games. That's not their thing. I get it. I understand. I'm not trying to force you to do that. However, I know for a fact that Hip Hop Gamer can afford a gaming PC. That dude can afford 2 or 3 gaming PCs. Okay, I know he can afford it. So money is no excuse. Okay, and the next time I hear a console gamer talk about PC gaming is too expensive, I'm just going to point to Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, which most of you paid $120 to play because you paid $60 for the last gen version, then you paid another $60 for this gen's version. So Square fucked you in the ass and you loved it. In fact, you didn't even know it was happening. It's like they gave you a roofie. Okay, you did it so you can get some truss effects, a couple more plants, and some particle effects. Well, did you know that the PC version of the game was already definitive when it came out a fucking year ago? And if the devs really wanted to, they could have released that version on PC. But why bother? Because the game already looked outstanding. Okay? The console was the one that needed the update, not the PC. And then Hip Hop keeps bringing up 2K14. We've told you, Hip Hop, time and time again. Fucking basketball games don't make money on PC. So 2K is not going to put more money into making that fucking 2K14 look like the next gen Xbox One PS4 version. They're not going to do it because they don't make money off the fucking NBA games on PC. It sells like shit. We were lucky to even get the game. Need for Speed does not look worse on PC than it does on PlayStation 4. I don't know where you got your information from, but it doesn't. And it performs better on PC than PlayStation 4. Stop lying to your fans, Hip Hop. I have created a fucking monster. Dude, really? So lastly, anytime somebody gets online or gets on Twitter, they start talking this bullshit about what's next generation, blah, 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 and they try to interpret it like a painting or a fucking piece of art or a fucking clay design or whatever. Tell them to shut the fuck up because they don't know what they're talking about. There is a definition for generation. I've laid it all out here for you. Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's take a game for what it is and say, hey, have you heard of this game? Did you play it? Do you like it or not? That's all we need to talk about. We don't need to sit here and debate about whether it's next generation or not. Let's just stop doing that. And then you guys that are sitting there saying that fucking Xbox One, PS4 are powerful fucking consoles. They're not powerful consoles. Those are mid-range machines, okay? PC is powerful. Console, mid-range, okay? That's just a fact. Are they more powerful than last gen's consoles, all 3 of them? Yes, they're a lot more powerful than last gen's consoles. But don't sit here and say, oh my God, this fucking PlayStation 4 is a beast, Xbox One's a beast, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. No. If you want to see a beast machine, look at the PC. You don't have to buy it. Go to YouTube, watch the videos, go to your friend's house. I know every one of you has a friend that has a gaming PC. As a matter of fact, all you dudes who sit out here on the internet, running your mouths, flapping your gums, fucking posting on Twitter in the comments section, acting like you know what the fuck you're talking about, every single one of you has a goddamn PC. What the fuck are you afraid of? I'm out.